Guys, Zach Evanesh here with the Iron Roots podcast brought to you by Play. We are 50 feet away from the highway, standing in front of the York Barbell Hall of Fame Museum. Let me tell you, my friends, this is known as the birthplace of American weightlifting. And through these next few episodes, we're going to take you through stories and interview history with my new friend, Jan Dellinger, who worked at York Barbell, editing and writing for Strength and Health magazine, Muscular Development magazine. The stories are inspiring and amazing. It's gonna make you want to deadlift and power clean right away. Get ready for some awesome episodes. Here we go. This is Play's Iron Roots, a podcast dedicated to uncovering the strength legends, the training methods, and the stories around physical culture and iron history. I'm your host, Zach Evanesh. Grab yourself a protein shake, chalk up, and prepare to travel back in time through some of the most awe-inspiring stories of iron history. It's go time.
On this episode of the Iron Roots podcast, Zach continues his conversation with Jan Dellinger at the York Barbell Museum.
The 70s also is when like Arthur Jones had his Nautilus, and Arthur Jones was supposedly known for having that big property with like alligators and yeah. So what was were you ever at Bob Hoffman's house? Did he have a big property like what
No, not
Arthur
like
Jones had?
I was in his property up here in Lightner's Hill, is where he lived in the 30s. It had there were 2 stone homes there. He got them built for like $30,000, Grimmick told me, which in the 1930s was a lot of money.
That's a lot of money
but
back then.
Still, you know, that would translate well to today's dollars, really well. And he had a what would you call it, a nice summer house with it. He had that swimming pool, and he kind of had a fenced-in yard up there. They had some vines growing around it, things like that. But that's where, like I said, well, the picture out here I showed you where they had competition. They put a platform out there in the backyard and had sandwiches and stuff, and guys lifted. And but I think as the York Barbell gym started to get acclaim and grew, it transitioned from there at his house. In fact, I was in his garage. Some of the early power racks were there. With some of his canoes. This is like 1982. These are actually wash line posts.
The isometric racks?
Yeah.
Yep, which I had mentioned to you was that was what they had at the YMCA I trained at. That's what they had at Diamond Gym.
This is the model, if you will, of where those power racks came from. These are like circular wash line posts.
Yes.
And they had, they were parallel, and they bolted them in, they flanged them into the floor, they flanged them into the ceiling, and then they bored holes in there and they just had the pins going through them.
Why did they go so high to the ceiling?
Well, it's overhead. Yeah.
That's right, to be able to press overhead.
But now the portable power rack was like the same distance, but it was channeled. And you had to be sitting down, unless you were, really short, you had to be sitting down to press overhead. Well, they figured people would put them in a basement. Most basements were 8 feet tall. You're not pressing overhead anyway.
Yeah, that was always the big thing for me to shop for a house. Like, can I put a barbell over my head? I didn't tell the wife, though.
Right, no, I understand. You don't want to let them know just how far going you really are.
That's right. That's so right. I was just like, I don't care what this house looks like. Is there a garage, and can a barbell go over our head?
Yeah, I certainly get that.
They really, equipment-wise, York was really, to me, it seems like the forefront, especially because, even now, people are still searching for York dumbbells, York plates, York isometric racks, decades later.
Between York iron and steel and York benches and things like that. York did not have what you call a real complete equipment line. That was okay for the 50s. You had a standing calf machine. You had a vertical leg press, which could have been taller. And one or two other things. They had benches, but I think the early benches were narrow.
Very narrow.
Now, the problem with that is if you had an Olympic bar, how do you load that if you're by yourself?
It's going to flip, right.
Right.
You still see Arnold training on that stuff and Franco. And
they had like Gold's Gym. They had, I think Joe Gold made some of his equipment like that. So anyway, but that's sort of the state of the art at one time. And when Joe Gold was young, that would have been the state of the art, and he just sort of made what he knew, I guess. But yeah, we in the early 70s, they developed a super power bench. York super power bench. Just flat, it was just
a great name.
Anyway, they used it at the World Powerlifting Championships. We still had them out here in the store when I worked here and would do it occasionally. It had round tubing for uprights. And a lot of people looked at that. Guys could bench press 300 pounds. Well, how do you, that doesn't look very sturdy. Well, it's wall thickness. That's what you can have 4-inch square tubing. It looks big and bulky, but with a flimsy wall, you can't handle that much. And so when people would say, well, this bench is, I'm benching 330. I don't think it can hold me. I bring him out here to the Hall of Fame. It was a picture of Hugh Cassidy winning the World Powerlifting Championships. Hugh weighed about 330. He benched 580 on that bench. I'd say, so now here's a guy doing 580, weighs 330. He weighs what you can bench press. Yeah. And he's doing it on this bench. Jim Williams benched even more.
Big Jim, interesting about Big Jim Williams is a guy that comes to my gym. Yeah. His brother-in-law is Jim Williams' son.
Okay.
And so he grew up in the Scranton area. Yeah, so he'd tell me stories about Big Jim and Marty Gallagher. Do you know Marty?
I know of Marty Gallagher.
Yeah, Marty always mentions Hugh. He calls Hugh Huge Cassidy, so that he basically mentored him with all the training.
Yes, yeah. Hugh's a good guy, nice guy, intelligent guy. Hugh was smart. Once he got out of powerlifting, he dropped a lot of weight. In fact, there's pictures of him, I think, in a bodybuilding contest.
Really?
Yeah. Anyhow.
Oh yeah, you're right. I think I've seen them. Right. Yeah.
But Cassidy's a smart guy, but the guy trained twice a week, and he basically did the 3 lifts twice a week, and I think he did some hyperextensions with it, and he did some neck work, various kinds of neck work. But very simple. But Cassidy, we had the first strength picnic, strength spectacular.
Right.
You came, and we're having the out front here, I think they were having a wheelbarrow race or something. I said to you, would you, if you were young again, would you do this? He said, oh yeah. He said, I would prefer, he said, I wished they had this when I was young. He said, I'd have been better at this than I was at powerlifting.
The strength spectacular was like a strong man.
Yeah.
I think I've seen it on YouTube.
Well, we had, the first one we had a leg press. Guys had a leg press, it was a double body weight or something like that for reps. I remember I had to take one competitor over, weigh him on the freight scale.
Who was that?
It was Kenny something.
He must have been then 4 plus.
Yeah, he had to do 880, I think it was.
Oh my goodness.
And it was hot out here, and I'm thinking, I hope this guy can make it through. I mean, don't stroke out. But we had that. We had the farmer's walk.
Yeah.
With 150-pound dumbbells. I think we also had like repetition clean and press with a pair of 75.
We'll have to look it up on YouTube, see if we can find some footage.
But anyway, I remember saying to you, would you sooner have done this or would you sooner have done the powerlifting? He said, I think I'd have been better at this than I was at powerlifting.
Interesting.
So, you was a sharp guy.
Sharp guy. So, from here, Jan, what we're going to do is try to take a tour, show us around a little bit of the museum. This is my first time here, so I'm like really...
It's your last.
No way. I was telling you, I said, I don't know how I wasn't able to convince my wife that this should be part of the family vacation when we're in Lancaster.
You were in Lancaster County.
Yeah.
It's a half hour over here, just go on Route 30. I mean, there's quicker ways, but just go on Route 30 and come on over.
What questions do you wish I would have asked you that you think people should know about with your time here?
So many things. I almost work better if you hit me with a topic and then I react.
What's like your most memorable experience since you worked at York?
Okay, well, one I remember, got into professional wrestling locker room up at the Zembo Temple. Now, this would have been like 1977, 78.
Okay.
And that was thanks to Ken Patera. Ken was wrestling the circuit here, and he called up Turpak and said, I want to come to the gym. This is down at Ridge Avenue. He said, I want to work out a little bit. He said, but I need to talk to you. Because Ken was opening up a gym, and he lived in North Carolina at the time.
Okay.
And he's opening up a gym, and he said, I need to buy some weights. So he came and worked out in the gym, and he had hurt his back. This was shortly after one of those early.
How did he injure his back? From wrestling or lifting?
Well, lifting. He said, he told us, he said, these guys that think I'm going to go train, and remember, they had to drive everywhere at that time. He said, I get about 2 workouts a month. He said, serious.
I have heard like their travel schedule was insane.
Back to Backlund with his 2 exercises, the step-ups and the roller wheels, and because you could do it anywhere.
Right.
But if you didn't develop something like that.
I'm so inspired to do rollouts now. I don't know about 700 a day.
That's great. He was here. Smitty called me and said, do you know who Bob Backlund is? Well, I never seen him on TV. Right? Yeah. So he's down here doing these roller wheels. He said he did about 300. He said his hands were full of sweat. And he said he stopped and he cleaned off the roller. He said, then he cranked out about another 400. Then he did about 1,400 step-ups per leg. I said, Smitty, come on. No, he said, come down. Next time he comes down, I'll call you, come down. A couple of weeks went by, he's through here again. Smitty calls me, because I'm working up here at the time. He said, come on down and see this. So he did. I got there, I saw the last of Backlund's 700 rollouts, and then I was as close to him sitting on a chair as I am to that camera when he was doing the step-ups. He's counting them. I mean, 1, 2, 3, right up to 1,400. I got up when he did the left leg with 1,400.
Did you write an article on this or no?
I've written a couple of them. The only guy that ever came to York Barbell didn't train but didn't train.
But didn't train with the weights.
I would have thought a long time ago, Bob would have maybe counted it out once and, it took me an hour and 10 minutes, and just sort of did them by the clock. He was fanatic. He was fanatical about his training as any bodybuilder was.
Right.
Because I got a little conversation with him. He was a nice enough man. He said, I do this pretty much every day. And said, I can do it anywhere. I can do it at the arena. I can do it in my hotel room. He said, people in the gym won't let me alone. He said, He said, sometimes if I see parallel bars, I'm driving through a town, I see a gym or a park, they have parallel bars and stuff, gym bars. So I'll get out and do some of that.
That stuff's the best. Right. That stuff's great. Thank you for supporting the Iron Roots podcast, brought to you by Play. To see this episode and all the other educational resources brought to you by Play, go to play.pro, Plae.pro. You're going to love it, and we'll see you next time.